I was told long ago that when you speak in public, you're lucky if one person remembers one thing you said 1 week later. And realizing that truth, I decided to help by providing a little study aid. And I've adapted my style to right up front telling you the one thing that I want you to remember next week at this time, and hopefully long after that. Today, the one thing is actually 3 numbers. And I apologize if you're not a numbers geek, but this is really easy. The first number is 80. The second number is 1. And the third number is 519,000. And I will come to what those 3 numbers are in just a moment, but you just need to understand these numbers are the linchpin of the fight that we're in, or how we're going to win this fight. You all are caught up in battles between Team Red and Team Blue every day, but you're also caught up in a much larger battle between a desire to return to a self-governing society where decisions are made closer to home and a federal government that wants to put all the power guiding our society in the hands of unelected bureaucrats. That battle is the same battle our nation has been fighting from the very beginning. Now, when we start talking about that, you hear every day that we're a 50-50 nation. And I kind of get that, because for the last 40 years, we have had very close presidential elections. We have not had a landslide since 1984. No candidate has managed to win more than 53% of the vote in all of those years. It's never happened before in American history. And if you add up the more than 1 billion votes that were cast during the last 40 years for president, 49% of them went for a D, 48% of them for an R. Sounds 50-50 to me. That's the political world's look at America. If you talk to the American people, though, and you really begin to think about what drives them and what their interests are and what their passions are, it looks much different. We're actually a 10-10-80 nation. There are 10% on the right who are actively engaged in a bitter war with 10% on the left, and this is the 80 number. The 80% in between pretty much just want to keep their head down, avoid getting caught in the crossfire. They really don't want to be governed from the left or the right. They want to govern their own lives. They want to make decisions about things important to them. This 80% is challenging to reach because they don't show up at your political rallies. They don't get engaged. In fact, they don't even use the same language that we use at events like this. So one of the things I would encourage you to do is to find ways to meet people who are outside the political bubble every chance you get. My firm has just reached an agreement with Jigsaw, a division of Google. We're going to be launching a new project in conjunction with our nation's 250th birthday that will lift up the voice of this 80% in ways it's never been done before. And I would love to share that information with you. Sarah Stevie is right here in front. Sarah, stand up. If you want to hear more about this project and learn about that 80%, just be in touch with Sarah and we'll make sure we keep you in the loop on that. But this 80% is who you should be trying to reach. It's fun to own the other team in a social media fight. It's fun to do other things and win a political battle. And it's awesome when you can do something like give parents the choice of where their kids go to school. When you do that, you're turning power over to the 80% to govern their own lives. So that's the first number. The next number, 1. It's for the elite 1%. My firm was commissioned by Steve Moore and the Committee to Unleash Prosperity a little over a year ago to do some research into this group. The elite 1%, extraordinarily influential. They live in densely populated urban areas. They make a lot of money. And most important, they have a postgraduate degree. Postgraduates are more out of touch with the rest of America than any other segment of our society. Just to give you a sense of it, you all have heard of the diploma divide. It's a little bit of truth in that, but the reality is the biggest divide is between postgrads and everybody else. People with a bachelor's degree have views more like those without a degree. Last year, Kamala Harris won the postgraduate vote by 30 percentage points. The rest of America voted for Donald Trump. Narrowly, but there's a real gap there. And when we looked at this elite 1%, what we found was chilling, because these people are influential, they drive media narratives, they drive a lot of our political discussion. 47% of them believe that the rest of us have too much individual freedom. And among the politically active elites, those who engage daily, 69% of them believe we have too much individual freedom. Pretty depressing numbers. Another odd thing about them, at least odd from the world that I come from, is 70% of them trust the federal government to do the right thing most of the time. A majority of Americans haven't had that much trust since 1972. This group also thinks we should ban private ownership of handguns, and they think we should ban a lot of other things beyond just gas stoves and things you heard about to fight climate change. So this elite 1%, wildly out of touch, very influential, they are driving a narrative, and they are creating a political fog of war that confuses the 80% who aren't following politics every day. They force you to pick one side or the other. Our role should be to fight for the 80%. That means we fight against the 1%. And that's where 519,000 comes in. You were a part of that group. There are 519,000 state and local elected officials in America today. Just over 7,000 of them are state legislators, more than 80,000 are school board members. There's all kinds of positions in 87,000 local governing bodies. State and local elected officials need to find ways creatively to take back power from the federal government, one small step at a time, one day after another. And the basic idea, and I'll just tell a quick story and then explain how it applies to what you can do on a daily basis. On July 2nd, 1881, I wasn't polling at that point, but James Garfield was President of the United States. He was going to go take a summer vacation at the Jersey Shore, and he got to Union Station and got shot by an assassin. He didn't die right away. He survived 2.5 months, and his wound wasn't all that bad. There were Civil War soldiers still walking around 16 years after the fighting with similar wounds, but the president had the best medical authorities treating him. They didn't think leaving the bullet in the president was a good habit, so they spent 2 months trying to find a bullet and take it out of his body. They didn't believe in these new theories of germs and sanitation. So a dozen different doctors reached into the president's body with their hands without washing them, without cleaning them at all, and they gave him an infection that killed him. At the end of the day, the man who shot him said, "Well, I shot the president, but the doctors killed him." We can laugh about that, but what happened next was amazing. After the story, after all of this happened and it came out, the medical community in America began to realize what had gone on, and they made a very simple change in their procedures. They washed their hands before meeting a patient. The impact of that simple change was that when Garfield was shot, the average life expectancy in America was in the mid-40s. Within a couple of decades, it was more than 60. By washing their hands, they increased the average life expectancy of an American by more than 15 years. And I want to suggest that every state and local elected official in America should adopt another similar type of boring, repetitive, routine practice. Before you discuss any policy issue and how you should resolve it, before you talk about what should be done, begin every meeting, begin every agenda item, begin every topic, every time you meet with constituents by asking, who decides? Is this something that the federal government should be deciding, or is it something we should be deciding? Or if you're a state legislator, maybe we should turn it back to the local communities or to the individuals, as has been done with education choice. If you begin to ask that question of who decides on a day-in, day-out basis, once you begin to find out that the answer is not the federal government, come up with a creative way to bring decision-making closer to home. Alexander Hamilton said that the only way you can control a government is to make ambition counteract ambition. You need to make the ambitions of the 80%. You need to make the ambitions of state and local governments counteract the overreach of our federal government. And if you can do that day in and day out, there will be some great victories, there will be some discouraging days, but there will be a lot of little bits of progress, and you will have done your part to ensure that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from this earth.